War crimes. That's what we're going to be talking about today, okay? Because I was preparing for a separate video. You see, the dictator tier list is going to be made. I went through the history of the world and I picked out some of the worst and frankly just some of the most interesting people that wound up becoming a dictator. Keep an eye out for that. And I went down this other rabbit hole going over the history of war crimes. Let me just tell you something right now. I'm going to spoil it. The idea that we were able to make a rule book for war, and not just that, there are multiple different rule sets for war. Because some conflicts, certain things technically aren't a war crime, but in other conflicts, yes, no, that's a 100% a war crime, and you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life for crimes against humanity. We're going to be talking about that. Because I guarantee you, I'm going to name something, and you're going to be like, I might have committed a war crime. Like, I'm not even kidding you, bro. There's a lot on here. And, yeah, like, I really don't know how I'm going to do an intro on this one outside of YouTube. This is for educational purposes. I'm not saying do any of this. I'm merely just trying to educate you, like I was educated, on the bizarre history of war crimes and how we got certain war crimes and other stuff technically isn't a war crime. We got a lot to talk about today. We just made it to 40K subscribers. That I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to jinx it, but that was my goal for October, and you guys have really come through, and the support that you're giving this channel is honestly just a super humbling experience. I mean, I can't lie to you, bro. You're listening to a dude just talk about random stuff he finds interesting. I don't understand why you guys watch these videos. I hear that I'm pretty good background noise, and honestly, that does make me feel good. And I'm hoping I can provide good background noise for this great Wednesday that this video is going to come out on. A Halloween video is coming up, but I really just wanted to say this at the beginning of the video so I'm not holding you to the end. Thank you for the support you give this channel. It's honestly insane. It feels weird asking for more, but 50K subscribers by the end of the year. Nothing too crazy. I think we're going to be able to get it. We're on track to be able to do it. I mean, it said I wasn't going to get the 40K subscribers until a week from now, and you guys already passed it, so yeah, you guys are the best. I'm going to give you guys these videos. I'm going to keep on giving you guys these videos. Thank you for the support, and with all that out of the way, let's get into the war crime tier list. I probably should have said this in the intro. Some of the stuff that I'm going to say here technically isn't a war crime, but they tried to make it a war crime. You'll understand in a second. G-side, okay? I don't know if that'll get flagged if I say it, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. I think everybody knows what I'm trying to say here. What happened in Germany during the early 1940s to the mid-1940s, okay? The reason why Evil Mustache Man is seen as one of, if not the most evil people to ever grace this planet. I say grace, that's a bad word. Infected this world, okay? Yeah, you're a monster. I really, like, I'm trying to play devil's advocate for war crimes, okay? And the criteria for this is, if I found out that a country committed this or is committing this, how does my opinion change of this country, okay? And we're gonna start everyone off from, a blank slate. Like, if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, look what the world thought about Evil Mustache Man before World War II. It's actually kind of crazy. I just want, because there's a lot of gaslighting that occurs when we talk about history. UK was actually planning on surrendering to them. Evil Mustache Man was at Madison Square Garden and sold out the entire event. Like, I think people, like, go over that and they're like, oh yeah, every person thought he was evil. Like, there was a lot of people that were like, actually, like, bro's a little edgy, but I mean, stop trying to act like you were on the good side the whole time, bro. Like, no, you had some controversial takes. After World War II, yeah, evil, super evil dude, and he was doing it before, okay? But the rest of the world was kind of like, bro, we kind of have our own issues. I mean, to give America a little bit of grace, we were dealing with the Great Depression, okay? To give us, like, the slightest bit of grace, like, we weren't the global superpower. We weren't, like, the peacekeeper of the world like we are today. We didn't really have the power to do much until we got bombed by the Japanese during Pearl Harbor. That's what brought us in. I already talked about that in the war tier list. This has also occurred all throughout history. You're gonna find out that a lot of the stuff that got ruled a war crime, it's one of two reasons. Either it caused so much harm to the general populace that weren't involved in the conflict, or they were just straight up too broken. Yes, there are things on here that were ruled a war crime because they were, quote, too broken and caused too much damage. We'll cover that. I really have nothing to say about this one. It's just all around a bad thing. You are annihilating a full ethnic group of people. This can apply to religion, race. Like there's not. Like I really can't play Jehovah on this one, boys. I'm sorry. As entertaining as that would be for me to play the defendant lawyer for Evil Mustache Man, and that video would be clipped to infinity, and I probably would go viral for a second, similar to like a raids bait. My integrity, I really can't. I really can't come up with a good reasoning. If you want to, like, I mean, Germany was desperate, but like, there's a difference from being so broke that you kind of have to become like this pseudo, like, redistribute wealth to like make everybody do well, to, I think we need to get rid of an entire group of people because they're leasing our like, you see the jump that we made? Like, we skipped steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, infinity because we would never get here to begin with. And instead, Evil Mustache Man was on, amphetamines and a whole lot of other substances, and then came up with this stuff. Like, it really is a wild. Brother, your mom was one of them. If you were to ask me where I think it comes from, I think he got beaten a lot as a child, and he blames his mom for not protecting him from his father. And his mom was of that group, and he has, like, this deep-seated daddy issues and mommy issues that he just never went to a fucking therapist for. So, yeah, that if you were to ask me on a deeper level why he did what he did, I think that's what it was. You're dealing with an actual insane person. This isn't meant to be like, oh, well, no. He was insane. Put him down. 100%. Unjustifiable. You're a fucking monster, bro. I have nothing to say to you. You're a monster. There's no justifying this to me. The rules of medics. The reason that I had to put it as the rule of medics is, medical personnel in wartime is one of the most, like, debated concepts I have ever seen for a wartime. There's so many rabbit holes you can go down here. You can go down, well, technically, is that a war crime in this instance? Or, like, different rule sets of, is it a crime against humanity or is it a war? There is 8 different rule sets! I'm not kidding! There are 8 different rule sets when it comes to war crimes, and this is one that is still hotly debated. Let's say you're a combat medic, okay? You're serving in a battalion of Marines, and you are a combat medic. If you get into an armed conflict, you cannot fire your weapon. You cannot fire your weapon. Imagine Hacksaw Ridge, what that guy did. He basically just ran into fire and he just grabbed people. Yeah, that's essentially what you have to do. Like, you cannot fire upon your enemy preemptively. There is so much debate that has been talked about where your enemy has to fire upon you first for you to shoot your weapon in self-defense. I literally have to tank a shot from somebody so I can fire at you in self-defense. And what happens if I fire upon you as a combat medic? The moment I fire upon you, I lose my protection under the Geneva Convention. I can then be fired upon, and I don't get protection as a medical personnel. And you think to yourself, wait a minute, then why can't you fire on medic? You can't. I'm not kidding you. So, according to the Geneva Convention, it is illegal to fire at somebody that has the Red Cross on them. If I have a Red Cross on my helmet or an arm patch of the Red Cross, it is illegal for you to fire upon me because I am working as a third-party medical officer. You cannot fire upon me. You can see how this is very, very, very stupid because you're essentially working on the honor system. Because if I get shot and die and I'm a medic, the enemy battalion is just going to say, brother, it was in the heat of the moment. You're wearing army overalls. You're wearing Marine uniform. Yeah, I didn't see the little red patch that you had. This was a dog-eat-dog scenario and I took you out. They found out that when we were fighting Japan during World War II, they were using the Red Cross as a target practice because they were targeting medical personnel. This is why it became a war crime, bro. Another rule. that, like, this goes along into, like, the medical ones. I might have already... this might be a repeat, but I'm still going to bring it up. It is also super illegal to mark a van as a humanitarian aid and a Red Cross if it's carrying any type of weapon to help in an offensive way. You can see how this can be super strange, because I'm carrying medical supplies to help you. I cannot carry weapons to help you. Yes, the rules of medics are so strange to me. Like, I'll be real with you. Like, if I found out that, like, we were combating, like, an enemy army, and they were like, they shot our medic! I'd be like, but I understand the mistake. Like, I do. Like, don't get me wrong. If I'm wearing civilian uniforms and I'm clearly a medical personnel, and then you take me out, then yeah, that's a war crime. But, like, if I'm wearing full combat armor, like a bulletproof vest, I'm wearing a Marine uniform, and I have a little patch on me, or I have this little thing on my helmet that you can't see past 50 yards, and the average distance that I'm firing a shot is over 100 yards, I get it. I do. Like, I'm gonna be real. I'm putting it in, I get it. Don't go out of your way to break this rule, because that is what it says. I can't target a medical personnel. But if I'm a medic, yes, I'm gonna fire at you if you're pointing a weapon at me. But that's also a war crime. You see how weird war crimes are? Like, I'm sorry, that's just strange. Like, tell me in the comment section, do you think you would be able to cover that? Like, at what point is it no longer self-defense? Tell me. Scorched Earth tactics. I'm gonna be real with you, bro. When I found out that this was actually a war crime, I got, like, second-hand guilt, because I was thinking to myself, I've committed countless war crimes in video games, dog. Oh, that's another thing, bro. I have committed countless war crimes when it comes to, like, Call of Duty, Crusader Kings. Great game, by the way. I understand some people are like, oh, that's a nerd. Brother, I love history. I love Crusader Kings 3. It's fun. I've committed countless war crimes, though. Countless. That's not gonna get clipped. Yeah, so Scorched Earth tactics, to give you an idea of what that is, I can't target something that is going to help civilians survive. So let me give you an example for this, of what would be a war crime. Let's say I invade your country, okay, and you have farm fields by you, and those farm fields are overwhelmingly used to feed civilians. I can't firebomb it and napalm it to the ground, okay? Even if it doesn't destroy a single civilian building, that's still considered a war crime, because I'm affecting civilians more than I'm affecting troops. Now, this is where the dicey part gets into play. Let's say there's a field, and 20% of the food from that field is going to go to wartime, and 80% of it is going to go to civilians. And if I bomb it, that's still a war crime. You understand how this can get really weird really quickly? The just bombastic world of war crimes? But if it's 50-50, and I can claim ignorance, then it's no longer a war crime. So, when we firebombed the rainforest in Vietnam, we argued that that was being used for camouflage. So, technically not a war crime. But firebombing Tokyo, that's a war crime, but we didn't count it because Japan was already committing war crimes. Oh yeah, the massacre of Nanking, bro. We'll talk about that someday. But, not in this, actually, yeah, we'll probably slightly bring it up just because it does need to get brought up a little bit. Yeah, Scorched Earth tactics. Here's the thing. What? It's such a weird rule set. Like, I'll just admit it. Like, bro, like, this would be one of those where I might claim ignorance, and I'd be like, yeah, but, like, you're using that food to feed troops. Like, I get it, and I can understand how this would be, like, more useful when it came to, like, the medieval age, because I would actually have to set fire to the crops. Nowadays, I get it. I'm gonna put it in I get it. Top of I get it, more than getting into why, though, which is, like, middle. I understand this one. Yeah, I get it. Perfidy. Yes. This is Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars TV show would be on trial for committing war crimes of perfidy. What is perfidy? So, another rabbit hole you can go down when you're looking into the history of war crimes, there is a subsection of war crimes that is covering deceptive tactics. Yes, there is such thing as a rule set of deceptive tactics when it comes to wartime, and I'm not kidding you. Let me tell you some of the stuff that is in there. Feigning surrender. I cannot tell you that I surrender and then I immediately fire upon you. That means I no longer get protected by the Geneva Convention, and neither do my buddies. So, in World War II, they were having such a problem with Japanese soldiers. Okay, I'm trying to say this without getting flagged. Japanese soldiers were feigning surrender and then immediately attacking U.S. troops. This was a proven thing that was happening. This is not even a controversial take. This has legitimately happened. And it was so bad that the U.S. Army argued that since they're feigning surrender, we can no longer take prisoners. Yes, at that point, we were just straight up executing people that were surrendering because we just didn't trust them. And it was permittable because of one fucking guy did it. Imagine ruining it for everybody else and you decide you want to be John Wick and like you want to do a self-defense like gun disarm and then you commit a war crime and now everybody can get taken out. Yes, in every single movie where somebody puts hands behind their heads and they do like a disarm thing, if it's in wartime, yes, that is a war crime. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, I'm sorry, that was cringe. Yeah. Any single time you have feigned surrender, that also applies. I can't wear civilian clothing and attack you. I can't wear enemy uniforms and attack you. Most deceptive acts when it comes to warfare. Yes, that is that dumb. I'm sorry. Also, Canada is a big reason because of this. I think we'll cover this later on. I think I see it over here. You have to treat POWs with respect. Canada is a big reason why this is a thing. Canada, you were on demon time in literally every single world war. To throw back to Scorched Earth, they had such a big issue where they would just firebomb German towns where it was the family of German troops to hurt their morale. They would legitimately just destroy civilian towns to hurt the morale of Germany. Canada, what the fuck is wrong with you, dog? We'll cover some more Canadian war crimes when we get later on in the video, but that's just to help you out. I'm gonna put it in why though. Like why? If I'm feigning surrender, like I'm sorry, that's a bits move, bro. Yeah, if you feign surrender and then take out the dude that was actually gonna take you into custody, because spoiler alert, in most first world countries there is an actual code that we must follow when we treat POWs, and that only applies to your people if you don't break the rules. So don't break the rules to ruin it for everybody else. Why though? Gas. Chemical weapons. Man, I kind of effed that up. I'm sorry. Okay. This occurred because of Germany. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Germany is the reason why it's against the Geneva Conventions to use chemical weapons on an open battlefield. Yes, I said open battlefield because technically poisonous gas is legal if I use it in a controlled manner. But most of the time it's just outright illegal because it kills indiscriminately. So the reason that gas and chemical weapons were made illegal under the Geneva Convention is because they killed civilians indiscriminately. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, like, I understand how it's overpowered, and I do guarantee you when they first made it, it was because it was overpowered. Yeah, you can't do it, though. Like, don't get me wrong, you still have to train in the Marine Corps to put on a gas mask because you never know these days. It's too broken. I think, honestly, here's the thing, dude. I get it, but it's still evil. Like, we're gonna skip past why, though. It's just like it's a bits-made tactic. Oh, I can't beat you in a 1v1 gunfight? Okay, no tactics? I'm gonna make the air poisonous. It's a bits move. I don't respect you for doing it. Germany, you deserve that, okay? Nuremberg trials, bro. Yeah, we got you good. I was about to... yeah, Nuremberg trials, gas weapons, Geneva Conventions. Yeah, bro, don't be using bits-made tactics. Don't be using them. Evil. Evil. So, civilian rules. Okay, this is another one where it goes in the same level of, like, Perfidy and, like, Scorched Earth tactics. It is a subsection of rules of how we treat civilians during wartime. You cannot outright target them. Any military tactic that kills above a certain percentage of civilians, if it's not going to... Okay, this is where shit gets complicated. There is a permissible amount of civilians that can die in wartime, and it's technically not a war crime. let's say I kill 20 civilians, okay? 20 civilians died, but it goes to the end of a war. So I'll cover nukes at the end of this, but the reason why the nuking of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is technically not a war crime is because the two options that we were going to do was either nuke them or do a land invasion. The land invasion would have killed 9 times what Hiroshima and Nagasaki did. So yes, civilians died, and a large amount of civilians did die, and it was terrible. It actually killed less civilians than a land invasion was going to do, and Japan was pretty much defeated at this point. It's a very hotly debated issue, like it's still to this day, but the reason why the nuke is technically not a war crime is if I can do it in a controlled manner. Yeah. So, you can't outright target civilians, you can't outright target civilian infrastructure, you can't target, historical monuments that are protected. So, yeah. You see how this can get really, really complicated. I mean, here's the thing, bro, it's evil. Like, it's evil. But at the same time, I don't even want to say I get it, because that can get clipped out of context. But, when we talk about the nuke. Okay, the only time where it is permissible, if it leads to the direct end of a conflict. But at the most of the time, it doesn't, so I'm just going to put it in evil. Conscripting children. Yes, there is another rabbit hole you can go down over how I can run my army. I repeat, I cannot conscript children to fight for me. What is the definition of a child? 16 and below. The reason that we had to do it 16 and below is because certain countries have a different definition of what a child is. Chris Hansen is calling. He wants you to meet him at the Sting House. So yeah, 16 years old is technically the one that we're going to go for, because you can get a waiver to get into the military, even in America, for 17 years old. So you understand what I'm saying. I can't conscript children. This is a big problem in most, like, developing nations, because, I mean, I get it. You don't have enough men to fight. I get that. It's still a bad thing. Just don't go to war then. Not really heard of. This was a huge problem during the World Wars when it came to Germany. Germany was notorious for allowing children to fight. There's a story of during the Battle of Stalingrad when Germany was getting desperate for the soldiers that they were going to send. So they sent a full battalion of people where the oldest one of them was 15 years old. And they sent them against the Soviets. And the Soviets brutalized them. The stories that they told, that, like, Germany would just straight up send children in the battle, and it was to cause, like, outrage and morale for the German people, because the Soviets would just brutalize these child soldiers. Like, just, it's terrible. Like, it sounds like I'm throwing a pity party for Germany during World War II. No. It's the fact of how crazy we got to the point that they were sending 12-year-olds in the battle, and then the Soviets were like, we're going to kill him slowly. Like, it really was that bad. Don't conscript, like, you're evil. You are evil. Like, you're super evil. We're almost a monster, but you're evil. And the only reason I'm not putting it in monster is that there's a few things that are even worse. But conscripting children, evil. Super evil. Pillaging. Yes, if we're engaged in a wartime conflict, I cannot take trophies. Trophy taking is such a big issue when it comes to international war crimes. Let me give you an example. If I served in the Navy SEALs and I took out a leader of a bad guy group, and I took a trophy that was stolen from another person and took that home as, like, something I would hang on my mantle, I can get tried for pillaging and war crimes. This is a huge issue because it's very, very difficult to track, so a lot of people do get away with it. This also applies to substances. So, for example, let's say there was an illegal substance that a certain group was manufacturing. I can't go over there, grab it, and use it because that would be considered pillaging. This also applies to food in certain scenarios. I have to make the argument that I need the food, so I can't even eat a fucking apple. This is it's so weird. Like, I understand that you can't do it to civilians. Like, that makes so much sense to me. But you're telling me a person that stole shit, I can't go to them and take a little trophy? Like, I can't even take weapons from them? Like, I'm sorry, bro, that's such a weird rule. I get it. I'm not saying to get rid of it. because I understand how it can be abused to, like, extract wealth, but we already kind of do that. So, I'm gonna put it, and I get it. Like, here's the thing. Am I gonna report, say, a family member if he has, like, I don't know, like a little vase that he found in a cave of a bad guy? No, I'm not gonna report the dude, but that's technically a war crime. Like, I get it, but I understand. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a controversial take. Tell me what you think of pillaging as a war crime in the comment section. This is going to be a very interesting comment section. I already know. Human seals. I'm just now realizing how crazy this video is going to sound to somebody who hasn't watched my other videos. Bad. Like, it's just bad. Like, well, I really can't. Like, yeah, like, so this also applies to infrastructure. Like, I can't put a base I can't put a base directly next to a civilian hospital. I can't do that. That's illegal. That's like super illegal. Yes, when we put bases somewhere, even if they are in, like, near a civilian area, it has to be around infrastructure that wouldn't cause overwhelming civilian harm. So I can't put a base by farm fields because that would go under Scorched Earth. I can't put a military base next to a water purification facility, because that would fall under Scorched Earth again. I also can't put it by a hospital because that would also fall under human sealed. You understand how bro, war crimes are so weird, bro. They really are. The fact that, first off, Scorched Earth, the reason that they got ruled a war crime is somebody quoted a Bible verse from Deuteronomy where it says, during wartime, you can't burn down fruit-bearing trees. We got from that, Scorched Earth tactics are shameful and shouldn't be done. But we still end up, it's one of the most accidentally committed war crimes of all time. It still is. You're just a monster, bro. Like, you just are. Like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. You're a monster. Like, I don't get, like, what do you want me to say? You're a monster, bro. Like, maybe, I can't really make one. The treatment of POWs. Okay, so, I want to put another one. The next two are gonna go hand in hand. Actually, the next three go hand in hand, and then we're gonna get into the stuff that they wanted to be made war crimes, but weren't. That's another funny rabbit hole, the stuff that people wanted to be war crimes. But the treatment of POWs is one of the most regulated facets of wartime rules of all time. There are so many things that you have to abide by during wartime when it comes to keeping POWs. They have to be fed at least once a day and be given the maintenance calories of the average person that they are from. You have to provide them with enough water to survive. You have to provide them with sustainable shelter so they aren't going to die to the elements. You cannot subject them to torture. You can do interrogation, but it can't break the Geneva Convention when it comes to brutalizing and mutilating people. But stuff like psychological stuff, that's technically legal. Waterboarding is legal. There's a few other stuff that is illegal, but I'll cover that later. But basically, treat POWs like you're gonna have to give them back at the end of the war. That's essentially what you have to do. You have to treat POWs with the intent that you'll give them back. And let's say you break any of these POW rules, that's a war crime. It's evil. If you just take... Oh, before I leave this one, a big reason why we have POW rules is actually because of Canada. Canada was pretty... I don't want to say pretty big. That sounds bad. They did a few war crimes when it came to POWs. What they would do is they would tell them that they were taking them to a POW facility, and then they would just execute them on the death march over there. And then when, after the war was over and then they were questioned about it, they said, oh, nobody surrendered. Like, yeah, Canada was on demon timing during the World Wars. This was World War I and World War II that you guys did this shit. Like, Canada has a weird beef with Germany. Like, somebody from Canada, can you tell me why you have, like, this insane bloodlust to Germany even before World War I? Like, y'all went into absolute demon mode the moment we gave you the chance to do it. Like, what's going on? I think it's because you guys live in a cold area and there's a lot of pent-up aggression and you guys are, like, forced to be positive all day. So when wartime comes around, you just use it as a... like, you understand what I'm saying. But for real, Canada, what's going on, bro? Biological experiments. This occurred during Germany during the 1940s to 1950s, and this occurred during Japan during the Unit 731 fiasco. Japan committed the most war crimes in World War II. I want you to think about that, okay? No. I legitimately want you to put that into your mind, okay? Of all the war crimes that Germany was charged for during the Nuremberg trials, Japan actually committed more war crimes, and then we found evidence during 30 years later that they had more plans to commit even more war crimes. Japan did, like, here's the thing. If you want to debate the morality of dropping the nuke on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that is something that we can do. But don't pretend like Japan was not committing war crimes left and right and was planning on committing even more war crimes. Let me start listing them off for you. The Massacre of Nanking. That goes for a different name, but I can't say that without getting flagged on here. Look up the Massacre of Nanking. The Nanking Massacre. Brother. I'm sorry, that's insane. Like, that you're already a monster for doing that to China. You just are. Unit 731, so they would take as many civilian prisoners as they could for biological experiments. And yes, this applied to surgery, stitching people together, grafting body limbs onto people, live vivisections when it came to children. They would breed children. They would breed children with the women, with the guards, and then they would experiment on the newborn child. So, I'm sorry, you already deserve one nuke for that. I think I'm being for real here. Unit 731, that justified one nuke. Frankly, okay? I'm sorry, bro. What? There's no justifying this. And the fact that they tried to scrub all, records of this. The only reason that we know about Yevon's Unit 731 is based off incompetence within their own government, because after World War II, we kind of disbanded a lot of the government. So a lot of the files kind of escaped from being burned, and a lot of the people who committed it were so guilty about it that, very similar to the Soviet Union, they confessed to it on their deathbed because they were worried they weren't going to go into heaven. So yeah, that's why it took so long to find out, and they didn't receive any Nuremberg trial for it. Most of them got off scot-free and were able to die with money afterwards. So yeah, you deserve one nuke. What other stuff did you do? There's so much that Japan did. You had the death barges where they would just bake people in aluminum foil. Like, on a boat, bro. Like, I'm sorry, bro. That's crazy, man. It's depressing, and I might cover it later on in a different video, just the full Unit 731 story, if you guys want that. I'm looking to get into stuff that is more like over one issue and move away from, I'll still do tier list content, but stuff that is going over stuff that I covered in tier list. Tell me if there's anything that you want me to cover. Unit 731, I almost forgot another war crime that they wanted to commit. They were very notorious for using biological warfare. They would airdrop, I think it was either ticks, they would airdrop bugs infected with the plague into rural areas to stop people from farming. That's a Scorched Earth war crime. That is illegal. And they wanted to do it in America by airdropping it into California. That would approximately kill 20 million people. You deserve the second nuke for that. They were planning on doing it a month before we dropped the last bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, I'm gonna be real with you. That's 2 nukes right there. We're even, dog. So, yeah. You're a monster. Like, I'll be real, yeah. Japan is a monster. Like, Japan was a monster during World War II. They're kind of in their redemption arc, and I'm willing to give them a chance. But, Japan was a demon in World War II, dog. Committed the most war crimes out of any nation, but didn't receive any trial for it. Insane. Collective punishment. I just wanted to cover this one because there's like a debate online over, like, you ever been in school and the teacher holds the entire class back because of the actions of one dude, and then all of the people are mad at that one guy. And then there was a joke that that's technically a violation of the Geneva Convention under the collective punishments under the treatment of POWs. Yeah, if that were a POW camp, if you were in a POW camp and that happened to you, you can argue that that was a violation of the Geneva Convention and they just committed a war crime. The reason that they're allowed to do it is that, I'm not kidding you, I want it to anybody who still goes to university or high school, I don't know how old my fan base is, if that happens to you, you can actually say that the only reason that you don't get in trouble for this and go on trial under the Geneva Convention is because war crimes don't apply to school students. I'm not kidding. Collective punishment does not count as a war crime because you are a student. I'm sorry, that's crazy. I understand why it is, because it's a very easy way to turn people against each other by just making these strange rules that only a few people are going to commit, and then you're going to turn everybody against them and cause infighting and then stop rioting. So yeah, collective punishment. I would put it in the same argument as, maybe I'm just desensitized to it. I'm putting it in why though next to perfidy, because I understand why you would do it, but I don't understand why you would do it. And it's kind of crazy that it's a war crime. That's all I'm trying to say. Why, though? Night vision. Yes, the next three that we are going to cover is stuff that are 50-50 on if it's a war crime or not, or they wanted to make it a war crime. Yes, during the war in the Middle East of the US of A, there was a few groups in the Middle East that were trying to argue that us using night vision was a violation of, it should be a war crime because night vision is unfair. Yes, they really tried to argue that night vision was too broken of a strat, and they wanted to make it illegal. And I'm sorry, bro, this is where my American pride kicks in. Fighting people with night vision when you don't have it has to be the equivalent of fighting literal demons. Imagine you're chilling out in like your little outpost really quick, and then you see like these basically like people in ghillie suits, but they're like looking like apparitions in the distance, and they have green eyes, and then you feel like this wind past you, and your buddy just got ripped apart by razor blades. But really what that razor blade and wind was is because he's using subsonic ammo and a silencer, it makes the bullet practically silent, so you only get the gust of wind, and it just rips your buddy apart like a razor blade passing through butter. And you're over here like, oh, and then you get ripped apart too, and then they turn off the power, and you can't see shit, and all you see is two little green eyes, because when you're putting on the goggles, it just looks like you have green eyes on you, and you're just seeing all your buddies drop around you. Little flashes, but they're not having any muzzle flash because the suppressor works as a muzzle brake. And then you just see all your buddies drop. Yeah, I would probably argue that's a war crime too. Also, night vision can see infrared, so you can actually mark stuff with a laser. That is an infrared laser that only you will see and your enemies won't see. So you could straight up coordinate attacks that your enemies don't know about. And they argued that that was so broken that should be a war crime. I say get good. And that's basically what the US government said. They basically said, night vision only applies for 0.00001% of our military budget. So, get good by night vision. We just called them broke, was effectively what we did, which is brutal. I'm sorry I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna put some shelves back here, and I'm just gonna collect stuff, and it'll be like fun set dressing. I am 100% getting a pair of Bino night vision goggles and putting it in the back. Am I going to use it for anything? Not really. I just think they look super badass. So yes. Why am I getting them? Because they look badass. Also, new night vision is turning red, so it looks like people have red or yellow eyes in the distance, which is terrifying. I'm putting it in what? Because it's not a war crime, but I understand why you would argue it. Pump action shotguns. Germany tried to argue that this was a war crime because it caused a wound profile that they didn't know how to fix. And it was an unhonorable weapon. I say, get good. You used gas weapons to hurt us. So, I'm sorry, bro. Get good. Yeah, they really tried to make the pump action shotgun a war crime because, here's a fun fact really quick. Do you know you have a better chance of surviving getting hit with a 5.56, which is the NATO round of all of our battle rifles, than you do of getting hit with a pump action 12-gauge buckshot? Yes, you have around, I think it's less than 10% chance of surviving getting hit by that than you do of getting hit by an actual battle round. Because the wound profile that is caused by a pump action shotgun when it comes to buckshot is so unpredictable in so many wound vectors that it is almost impossible to guarantee that you're going to survive it unless we get you immediate medical supervision, or you're just going to die of internal bleeding. So yeah, shotguns are so broken that they literally argued that they were a war crime. And that is why, to this day, people use pump actions in warfare. And even though it's an out-of-date weapon system, because of how reliable and broken when it comes to actually surviving it. Also, a 12-gauge slug, 1 ounce, violates most body armor. So yeah, pump actions are broken. People want an apocalypse weapon tier list. 12 gauge. 12 gauge is broken. It just is. I'm going to put it in what because it's not a war crime. And now we're going to end it off with nukes. Okay. Now we're going to get into another America Glaze session really quick, okay? When we're talking about nukes being a war crime, it's only a war crime if you kill a certain amount of civilians and it doesn't end a war. If I were to nuke a civilian city, that would be considered a war crime. If I were to nuke a military installation, that's technically not a war crime. We invented the tactical nuke, which is a more contained version of a nuke that doesn't have radioactive fallout to the same extent, because we wanted to use nukes in normal wartime and not get in trouble for war crimes. Yes, we made a pocket-sized nuke so we were allowed to use it. We just never did because we didn't want other people to use it on us. We invented the surgical missile strike so we wouldn't get tried for war crimes. I'm sorry, bro. That's objectively badass. We made a blender Hellfire missile that kills one person at a time, and we have to know exactly where you're at in the building to hit you with it, because our enemies were complaining that too many civilians were dying. So yeah. America, we put a lot of money into only killing one person really, really hard instead of getting rid of a lot of people a lot. That is why drone strikes have kind of gone down, because drone strikes are very, very bad at taking civilian casualties. I believe it was around 90% of all people that were killed during drone strikes during the conflict in the Middle East were civilians, which is such a crazy figure, by the way. Back to nukes, though. I don't want nukes to be used. Here's the thing. I get it. If you can make a super isolated nuclear strike on a military installation that doesn't cause a lot of fallout, then I get it. However, we are literally next door neighbors with nuclear annihilation. So yeah, that's why, even though technically it's not a war crime, I'm going to move it up from that to I get why you would want it to be a war crime. And there you go. That is the war crime tier list, okay? This really is Ethan on everything. A week ago, we were covering historical weapons. Now we're covering war crimes. I've been in like this history mind rabbit hole. We have a dictator tier list coming up, but we also have a scary movie tier list that's going to be coming out on Halloween. So yeah, don't worry. We're not just doing history stuff. We're going to be doing more pop culture stuff. I have a video plan that's going to be really good, and I don't want to spoil too much, but I may or may not have gotten a sponsor for an upcoming video that's going to be really, really fun. I cannot wait to show you guys. Please consider a like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get us to 50K by the end of the year, and I know that's possible because of the support from you guys. And with all that out of the way, thank you for watching the video. It's more than I deserve, and I hope you have a great Wednesday, or if it's not Wednesday, I hope you have a great day. Thank you everybody for your support, and I will see you all next time.